Hello and welcome to the next part of our tutorial. In this section here we're going to have a look at scoring. So what have we got so far? We've got a character and a non-player character who can hit us, and we're going to explore sort of scoring and health and those sorts of things. Okay. So let's have a little look here at some health, and we'll get because health and scoring are basically the same thing. Now, in terms of what we're going to see on screen for this, it's going to be quite simple. We're just going to have a numeric value. We will in future tutorials make that look a bit more interesting with sliders and dials and whatnot, but we'll just look at the mechanics of it for today. So we have our non-player character here that fires a bullet. So let's have a little look at this bullet script. So I'm going to double click on that and open it up. Now this is a really simple script here. It says destroy game object after 3 seconds. Now what we want to do with this is we want to there's all our other scripts as well, so let's have a little zoom in here. So this literally says we've got 2 seconds, and after 2 seconds destroy the bullet so it doesn't remain on screen. So let's just make that a little bit longer. We'll say 4 for now. We can obviously change that in the inspector, but we want to add another kind of another thing here. We want when the bullet hits the character for it on collision to disappear. So we don't want it to hit the character and then bounce off. Now there may be a game that is suitable for, but in this instance here, this game here, we're not going to do that. We're going to have on collision turn yourself off. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to say so void on collision enter 2D. So that's our kind of our starting point. So on collision 2D, and then we're going to say collision 2D, and we're going to say other. Now, and we'll open our statement. Now, what I want to introduce to you, we haven't done this before, is I want to have a look at the notion of tagging. So I'm just going to save this and move back here. So here's my player here, and my player up here in the inspector says tag untagged. Now you can make your own tags, which we'll go on and do, but there is a generic tag that comes kind of in with Unity when you install it, called player. So I'm going to tag this player. Now that could be any name, any word, and as I said, we can make our own. So what we're going to say is if this bullet hits random objects, it'll just bounce off them. But if it hits the object player, so or it hits an object with the tag player, then the bullet's going to disappear. So let's go back in and have a look at that. So we're going to say if and open our brackets. If now what are we going to hit? Well, this is the other here. So if the object that we hit, so other.game object dot tag. So if which is one of the it's a component on it. So if the other object, if the game object, the tag equals and we have to put this in inverted commas, so player, that's the tag that we've given it. So we're going to say, so if it has that, then do something, and all we want to do is this here. So I'm going to go Control C, Control V. I'm going to get rid of this comma because we don't want any delay at all, but I do need to put that in the semicolon to end that line of code. So let's just rewind over this. So we're saying on collision enter, so when the bullet collides with something, because this is on the bullet, so when the bullet collides with another thing, if the other thing has the tag player, then destroy this object, destroy the bullet. So let's see if that works. So we've saved that. We'll jump back in here. If we have a compile error, it'll pop up in the bottom, which it doesn't seem to have. So we'll press play, and we shall walk towards. Oh, so it should instantly disappear when it hits us. And you can see it still has physics, so it's pushed us back a little bit, but it has also disappeared. Okay, so we have mission successful so far. So we have the bullet now will disappear on collision. So so we have a minor success. So the next stage now is we want to have a scenario where when the bullet hits our player, that it's going to change the score, change the health. So in this instance, it'll be health. So the player's going to have a health. We'll give it a health of 10 or something, and then as the bullets hit, that health will count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. So let's have a look in some of the menus here and see what we can find. So first of all, Unity has an entire UI setup built into it, which is quite advanced, and yeah, it has an awful lot pre-built into it, and you can make very complicated and complex and interesting menu systems. So anyway, let's I'm gonna start by adding in a button. Now when I added in that button, it added in a whole bunch of things. So I'm just going to zoom out here and see, or show you what has been added in. So this little white box here in the corner is what the camera sees, and then this massive thing here is the actual UI. So this is the user interface. So if I want to put in buttons and sliders and graphics, you can see that this button here is down here. If I move it, so if I click on move here and move it up, you can see that it moves up here. So so first of all, this is how Unity deals with user interfaces. There isn't another scene that it overlays on top of our scene. This is it. Each scene in Unity can have its own UI, and you can have multiple UIs. Like you can have pause menus and like multiple menus opening simultaneously. There are some issues with them overlapping, but I think that may be resolved in this version of Unity. So first of all, when we created that button, apart from the button appearing, two other things appeared. One was the canvas, which is this really large area here. That's what the button is on. And the canvas itself has a whole bunch of characteristics that we'll explore another day, and it can do quite a lot. And we'll be going on after Christmas. We'll be looking at gaze input and all sorts of things on these things. And then it has an event system. And the event system is like a game controller object for the UI. So it has scripts that control, you can see here, horizontal axis, vertical axis. So basically how big and small all the buttons should be, and how they'll, how each event, so an event would be, changing the display, clicking on a button, etc., how that's handled by the UI. So this event system is there, and this canvas is here. Now we are going to change the canvas a little bit. So it says canvas scalar constant pixel size. So we'll just have a quick look at what that does. When I press play, so the button is here, which is fine. And I'm going to not maximize on play and press play. And our button is here. But if I put in a free aspect ratio, you'll see that the button has disappeared. So where the button appears on the screen is very important, obviously, and its size is also very important. So it says UI scale model constant pixel size. So that if we were making a game for one platform, like a HD monitor, and it was only ever going to be played on a HD monitor, then you could do this and it would be fine. And you may decide to do that for your own UI because you're making your games for a very specific resolution. But if it's going to run on multiple devices, we want it to scale with screen. And then we need to put in what screen size we're actually preparing it for. So over here I have HD, so 1920 by 1200. So I'm going to put that in as my reference size. So 1200, sorry, that's wrong. So 1920, and then 120 over here, which is just slightly bigger than HD. And you can see now the button has, you know, repositioned itself relative to this resolution. So we'll explore that a little bit more in future classes, but that's an important part of what we'll do today. Now the button itself is interactable, so when I press play, I can put my mouse over the button, and you can't really see there. Let's go full screen and see if we can see this button actually being interactive. So as I put my mouse over the button, I don't know if you can notice it changes to a slightly darker gray, and then when I click the button, the background changes color as well. So we don't want that. I don't want an actual button. I only made that because it's convenient, because it's got a background and a text layer built into it. So I'm actually going to turn off interactable. So I don't want to be able to click on this. And so you can see here that it's gone dark gray, so a disabled color. So let's make the disabled color a little brighter. Okay, cool. And there we go. And then the text is fine for now. So the text here, we could change this text if we wanted. We could put in hello, and we can change the font and the font size. Just to point out, if you make it too big, the text will disappear. So if you ever have text that is not visible, it's probably because it's too big for the box that it's trying to be displayed inside. And again, you've kind of basic sort of characteristics here is that you'd find in a word processor, like if the text is left aligned, center aligned, etc. So we're not going to dwell on that too much. I've written hello in here because I'm not really interested in that text, because I'm going to replace it now in a second. Okay, so I have this text and I have this button. So I'm going to rename the button. I'm going to call it health. Okay. Now, so let's have a little think about what we want to do. So I want a number in this box to represent my health, and then I want that number to go down when the bullet hits my character. So let's have a little think about that. So what I need to do is I need the character to register a collision, and then it to send a message to this text field to change every time it has registered a collision. So it would make sense for the script that I want to write, or the amended script I want to write, to go here in the player control. So every time the player is hit, now I could make a new script for this, but it kind of makes sense to put it inside this one. And then I'll have to specify what bullet hits me. So I'm going to add a tag to this bullet here. So it's untagged at the moment, so I'm going to go add tag. It says list is empty, so we'll call this evil bullet, and I've given it a capital B for bullet, and that's important because we'll have to name it specifically. So you can see here it's now in my list, so evil bullet. So we're going to reference to that. We're going to say if we're hit by that, then lower the score, not just if we have a collision. Otherwise, every time we kind of climbed on an obstacle or hit the ground, we'd lose health, which again you may want, but most of the time you won't. So let's go to my non-player, oh not non-player, my player character, and let's open this script here. So let's edit that script and see what we can do. So at the moment we have a scenario where we've got a we've got all our input here, and we've got all our all of the variables we've used so far. So let's first of all, I want to add in so using so this is a library I want to access. So Unity engine.ui. So I want to use the library that has all of the UI elements in it. So I need to put that at the top. And then I want to use a public static variable. And we'll have a little chat about that in a second. So a public static variable, and we'll call it health. And we'll say it's equal, oh, that's a public static, and we need to say it's an integer and called health, and we'll say it's equal to 10. Okay. So, now what we're going to do is we are going to say that, let's see where I'll put this. So I'll put it up here, above update. So I'm going to say, so void, I'm going to use on collision. So on collision 2D, so on collision enter, sorry, 2D. And just like we did before, so it's collision, and then we can use other like we did before. It's collision 2D, other, and open a function. So if we reference our bullet script here, so this is the same thing. We've said if it's got the tag, so let's just copy this over. So we'll go to our player control script. So we'll go Control V. So if other.gameObject.tag equals evil bullet. Okay, so if I hit another object that has the tag evil bullet. Now at the moment it says destroy a game object. Well, that'd be pretty, that would mean if I was shot once I'd die. That'd be a pretty difficult game. So what I want to do is I want to change this variable health. So I'm going to say health minus minus, or I can say health minus 1. So every time I get hit by this, change this variable health by -1. So let's save that and jump back in here and see if we get a compile error. So line 17, it's not liking what we've done, so it doesn't like this minus, so we'll say minus minus and save that. Minus minus is the same as saying -1. I can also make a, yeah, so it's disappeared now, so that's all good. So I could also say health equals health minus 1 and minus health that way. So health minus minus will remove 1 here. If I wanted to be hit by a bullet that was going to subtract more damage, then I would literally say health equals health minus 2. So you would change the value of this by 2. Okay, so this is set up now to run. So every time I get hit by a bullet with this tag, I'm going to lose some health. So let's jump back over here and look at my player and look at, we can't see that health variable here. And that's because even though it's public, it's a public static variable, which means it's not accessible here. So rather than trying to go through the theory of a public static variable with you, I'm just going to show you it working. So I'm going to add, I'm going to rename this field here health score. Doesn't really matter what it's called. And I'm going to make a new script, and I'm going to call this health control. So this is my health control script. I'm going to double click on it to open it, and hopefully, there we go, health control. Now, what I want to say in health control, first of all, I want to, this is going to affect the UI, so I need to say, so using Unity engine.ui. So I need to remember to put that in to say I'm going to use that library. So the next thing what I want to say is in, I don't need any of that. So in void update, what I'm going to say, actually I need to do a variable here first. So I'm going to say, so public text. So I'm declaring a variable as a text field, and then score text. Actually, it's health. Yeah. So health text. Okay. So I'm declaring this word here. Give it a capital H. So this is a variable called health text, and it's a piece of text. Okay. So what I'm going to say is health text equals, oh sorry, health text dot text equals. Now I'm going to explain the difference between text here and text here with a capital T and a small t in a minute. So I'm going to say equals, and what I want to do is I want to reference, this basically is going to update this piece of text, but it needs to get the information from this script. So how do we do that? Well, all I need to do is name the script. So I need to say, so player control, okay, so that's the name of the script, dot, and it's already got our variable here, health, and then I'm going to say dot, and to string, bracket, close. So, and yeah, that's it. So let's just save that, and we are going to, I can jump in and get it, see it working, and then we'll go through how it works. So I'm going to put this, I don't need to put this script onto the text, but I will, just because it'll be easier to find. So it's actually saying to me, where is the text that you want me to change, and this is it here. So I want to change that. Now just before I go any further, let's go back into my control here. So right, so that should all work. So let's just press play and see what we get. So you can see here my text is 10. So as I walk forward, it's 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. Now we'll worry about the, what happens when I get to 0 and changing scene and all that. We're not going to do that in this session here. So I'm just going to save this. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through how this works. Okay, so first of all, what's the difference between text with a capital T and text with a small t? Well, this object here is text with a capital T. So this was the button, and the text, the actual text field here, is this whole bit here. It's actually this component here specifically. And then the text with a small t is the actual words written in here. So if you can imagine, the text with a capital T has all of this information, all the metadata, like how big is the font, the line spacing, is it centered, is it not centered, etc. So you're referring to the text sort of properties, and then inside of the text properties are the actual words themselves. So over here in our script, what we've said is there's a text box or text sort of component called health text, and inside this health text component there's a text field, and we want you to change that text field to be that there, to be health. ToString just means we're printing it, not even though we're seeing it as a number, we're actually printing it sort of, it's not an integer anymore, it's sort of alphanumeric. So it's a string rather than an integer. You'll explore that with Ross in your wonderful programming class. Okay, so I'm going to stop there because I've been going for quite a while. How long are we going? Too long, 25 minutes. So just to kind of recap really quickly what we've looked at there. So we've looked at tagging. So in Unity, taking an object, giving it a tag, and then in the script to say only if I hit the object or collide with the object that has the specific tag, do something. So we've done that twice. We've said if the bullet hits the player, make the bullet disappear, and also if the bullet hits the player, change the text field. And we've done that by loading in the Unity UI library, and by in this instance here on collision, changing this public static variable, and we've added in a canvas, an event system, and a button, a non-interactive button in this case, with a text field that we've changed. And most importantly, I think the biggest thing that we've done is this here. It may not seem the biggest, but so this is a public static variable. So this is a variable that is accessible to all objects in the game. All we need to do is call upon the script that the variable is in, and then we can access that information, which is a very simple way of moving information from one object to another. Now there are restrictions on what you can do with a public static variable, but we'll discuss them another day. But it's a very powerful way of moving information around. Alright, we'll leave it there for now.